Hey everybody, Scott Crawley here again from Sharp Focus Creative Academy, and we are back with another Industry Pro tutorial. Now today, what we're going to be covering is how to do an integrated graphic within Adobe Premiere Pro. And when we're talking about integrated graphics in terms of post-production, we do not mean hardware specs for a GPU. The kind of integrated graphic that I'm referring to is when a title flies behind a person or an object on screen. Just like that. These are most often used in trailers, TV spots, and promotional advertisements. A lot of professionals create their integrated graphics within Adobe After Effects, but I wanted to show you that it is also capable to do in Adobe Premiere Pro. So let's dig in. I have my project open with my timeline consisting of a shot that we filmed with our drone up at Hungry Valley. As you can see, the drone flies up, thus revealing a mountain range in the background. I'm going to drag this title down into my timeline, and I will now extend it out to the duration of the clip. Let's say that I want this text to be revealed as the drone flies up. Now we see the mountain range and the text. Now, what a lot of people would recommend doing is taking the bottom clip and making what I would call a sandwich out of this, or an Oreo cookie. You can hold the Option key and drag up, and that duplicates the clip. So now we have what looks like an Oreo cookie or a sandwich where there is an identical clip on the bottom and an identical clip on the top, and the text is in between. Now, of course, we haven't masked this out yet, so you're not going to see the text reveal. As of right now, we're only going to see the top layer play out. Here we go. Right about there is when we would want the text to be revealed. Some people would suggest to add the mask onto this top layer, and what we would do is cut out this hill and then reveal what's underneath it, which would be this text and the bottom layer that is identical to the top layer. I'll show you how to do that right now. What we would want to do is click on this top layer. Let's come up to the opacity effect in our effects controls. And if we click on the free draw Bezier tool, that's going to allow us to draw a mask on this clip. If you're unfamiliar with creating masks in any software, essentially a mask just hides your face. And in digital terms, a mask simply hides whatever the heck you want it to. So in this case, we're going to want to hide everything else aside from this hill. When I'm creating a digital mask, I like to zoom out a little bit so I can see the outer boundaries of my timeline. We should always start out at the very first frame of whatever shot we're trying to create an integrated graphic for. And in this case, we want to turn on mask path. That is going to create a keyframe on the first frame of this clip. Now we click back on the mask to give us our free draw Bezier tool again. So I'm just going to click, 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 go all the way through. There's no right or wrong on how to do this. You can always go back in and tighten up your mask later on if you see that it's kind of sloppy. But for right now, I'm going to just kind of give a basic outline. And I like to come all the way down and around. Now, if your text is not going to be seen outside of just this basic area, you don't have to be that clean around the outsides of it. I just like to be a little bit over prepared in this situation. In theory, you could simply have the mask like this as long as the text will not be visible down here. But I like to just go above and beyond and make sure that nothing outside of this area will be visible. So the next step could be to click this button here that says Track Selected Mask Forward. What this is going to do is try to analyze the shot and see if it can figure out how to create the mask for you. Depending on the clip, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see what happens here. And I can already tell that something did not work properly. So as we scrub back and forth through this clip, we can see that the mask tracked vertically, but for some reason it did this rotation effect that clearly does not help us out. You can see that it analyzed the clip and added a keyframe for every single frame in this clip. In this particular case, it did not work, so I'm going to hit undo. And now I'm going to show you how to do this manually. My recommendation would be to go to the end of the clip, the very last frame, and now we will create a new keyframe. And as long as we are clicked on the mask right here, you can then move each of these points down. If you don't want to do this individually, inside the mask you see the move tool where I can move the entire mask. But if you click and drag outside of the mask, you can highlight multiple points at the same time. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So I click off of it to deselect all of these, and I'm just going to show you how to do this manually. Click down, click and drag. We now have a keyframe at the very beginning and at the very end. Now what you want to do is just scrub through this to see if it actually tracked properly. If you happen to notice that it gets a little bit sloppy, my next recommendation would be to go halfway in between these two keyframes and create a new keyframe and adjust there. So now we got to click back on the mask to see our boundary points, and I'm just going to tighten this up just a little bit. Now, in all honesty, landscapes are a lot easier to create an integrated graphic for because the skyline is usually pretty uniform. If you're trying to do an integrated graphic behind a moving body or a person running across the screen or walking across the screen, of course this process is going to take a little bit more time. We now have 3 keyframes. We started with the keyframe in the very first frame of this clip, then we did another keyframe at the final frame of this clip, and we can also add one in the middle. If you are going to create more keyframes to clean it up a little bit, I would recommend splitting the difference between the prior keyframe. So in this case, we would put a keyframe right here, and you could also put a keyframe right around here, and so on and so forth. You could add another one here, and here, and here, and here, and eventually you're going to get a very smooth motion mask. The other thing to pay attention to is the mask feather. In this particular case, we have some shrubbery and trees and dirt, cars, so we might actually want to keep the mask feather of 10. If we turn this down to 0, the mask will be a very hard-edged shape, and that's either going to help out your visuals or it could hurt it depending on what it is you're trying to mask. And you can always toggle through your keyframes by clicking go to next keyframe, go to previous keyframe. Once you have a pretty solid outline of your mask, then you can go in and zoom in and really tighten up the lines of your mask. You can even add more points, or if you've added too many points, you can command click on that. It will delete that. If you want to add more, it's always by default turned on with the plus symbol. If you option click any one of these points, it will give you Bezier handles to make the lines more smooth. Now I can go along and add maybe a curve here, maybe another one here to kind of go over the car. If you want it to be more linear, you can always option click it again to remove the handles. I'm going to add another one here, maybe down here to go around the car. I'm going to scoot over a little bit and maybe add another point, but be careful because when you go to move this, sometimes you accidentally grab one of the handles and it gets a little wonky. So I'm just going to go through this and clean this up a little bit. Maybe add another point here. Now, the more you zoom in, of course you could spend hours going in and trying to go around every single little curve. But keep in mind that most people won't notice that if you're completely zoomed out. And let's play it through and see what it looks like. That's not bad. If you went through frame by frame, I'm sure you could nitpick and find areas that could be cleaned up, but that just depends on how much time you have and what the requirements are for this particular shot. In a situation like this, because there are trees and grass, I might actually go back in and add the default 10-point feather. Alright, so now that I've shown you how to do this with the sandwich or Oreo cookie method, I want to let you know that you really don't need to duplicate this top layer to create the mask. You could essentially create the mask on the text layer by simply referencing the bottom layer. Let's say we delete this top layer. If you just click on the text layer itself, come back up and click on the opacity, add a mask on the first frame of the clip. I will turn on mask path, and I'll show you really quickly how you can create the mask on the actual text layer itself. Click on the mask to show the pen tool, and I will very quickly show you how easy this can be. Now, of course, my selection is not going to be perfect, but you'll get the point. Now we'll go to the very final frame of this video, add a keyframe, click back on the mask. I can drag this down. And let's scrub through it. Oops, as we scrub through, I see now that I accidentally made the mask perform the exact opposite of what I wanted it to do. The good thing is about Premiere Pro is that it allows you to come over here and click inverted on the mask if you do that, which happens to be more times than I care to admit. Now it turns the mask around to the exact opposite, and you can see we've created the mask simply on the text layer. If you end up wanting to put some other object in the background, you can simply copy and paste this mask on any other layer in your timeline. So there you have it, folks. We have successfully created an integrated graphic within Adobe Premiere Pro. Let us know in the comments below what you'd like to learn next. We'll be happy to help you out with that. Also, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified when we upload more tutorials. Once again, this is Scott Crawley signing off for Sharp Focus Creative Academy. See you next time.